Hi, Professor J. Savalina, and this is my husband, Jacob. So I'm going to be today teaching him about carb counting and the diabetic exchange list. So let's go forward with education. Okay, so I'm going to give you some kind of education about foods that contain carbohydrates. So those, like what to watch out for, if you become a diabetic, are grains, which, that under that subcategory, that's like breads, crackers, rice, all that kind of stuff. And then your starchy vegetables, such as potatoes and peas, and squash. Those are the kinds that those vegetables generally do have carbohydrates in there. The non-starchy vegetables, such as spinach, lettuce, we don't count those because those don't affect your blood glucose. Okay, and then we have fruit and juices, milk and yogurt, and sweets and desserts. Those foods, these are all, I have the list right here. These are all the things that are going to affect your blood glucose. So these are all the things to watch out for when you are counting up your carbohydrates. Got it?
Yep.
Okay, so I'm going to start with carb counting. So we're going to kind of go with this method. I believe it's the grams method. Just to kind of give you a background, one serving of a food, like let's say of a grain, which is a food that has carbohydrate, is 15 grams. So generally that's the rule. Like if it's like one slice of bread, that's equal to 15 grams. So we're going to kind of work with this number quite a bit. So let's say you need 1,500 calories and you only want to eat 3 meals a day. Well, let's use like 50% of the kilocalories as carbohydrates as a starting place for you.
Mm-hmm.
So we need to take 1,500 and we actually need to divide it by 2, and that equals 750 carb calories. So what we're going to do is we're going to divide that by carb grams. And each carb gram, like the number for carb grams would be 4. So that's just like, that's related to carbohydrates, that's related to kilocalories, that's what you would use kind of to get the proper amount going. So you would take 750 right here, and you would divide it by 4, and that would equal out to be 187.5. So you take this number, and then you would actually divide it by the number of meals that you eat a day, which you decided that it would be 3. So we take that, and we actually round up, and we get 63. So then we take this number right here, and we divide it by the 15 grams, which is the serving of carbohydrate that I was talking about earlier. And that equals out to be 4 servings. So this whole math kind of tells you the amount of servings you can have of carbohydrates per meal. So in one meal, you can have 4 servings. So just to kind of get like an idea of how many grams, we'll take the 4 servings and we'll multiply it again by the 15 servings, or the 115 serving, and we get 60 grams. And so then like if we want to kind of multiply that by 3 to see how many total per meal, that would be 108. So any questions before we go forward? Does that kind of make sense? So I'll kind of explain again. So 4 carb grams, that's the number of kilocalories of carbohydrates. And then you take that number, once you get that answer, and you just divide it by the 3 meals, and then you divide it by the serving. And that's how many servings you have. So
Is it 180 for meal or for the whole day?
This one would be for the whole day. Okay. So that would be our carb counting method. And next we're going to go on to the diabetic exchange list. This one's fun. Okay. With this one, we have a list. This one is generally given to us by the American Diabetics Association. So this list we can even provide for you. So over here, we have just the types of food, the carbohydrates, the protein, the fat, and the calories. I wrote to the side kind of portion sizes for you to understand, and we'll go over that actually right now. So let's say the type of food is a starch/bread. An example of a serving size would be 1 slice of bread. And then you see right here that 1 slice of bread is equaled out to be 15 grams of carbohydrate, and then it gives you the protein, fat, and calories. But in this case, we're focusing on the carbohydrates. And then there's the meats. Generally, your proteins and like your foods that are proteins or fats won't have any carbohydrates in there. So we see that the lean meats, medium fats, high fats meats, they all don't have any carbohydrates in there. So we're kind of good with that. Vegetables, I believe those are the starchy vegetables. Those one serving of those will have 5 grams of carbohydrate. And a portion size would be half a cup of cooked carrots. That's just an example, or a cup of non-cooked carrots. So kind of like that. Next, we're gonna move on to the fruit. So that was on the list that we talked about earlier, foods that have carbohydrates. So one small apple would have carbohydrates in there, would have 15 carbohydrates, which is that one serving size. So if you have 2 small apples, what you would do is you will multiply this number by 2, and it'd be 30 grams of carbohydrates. And that's how you would get it all together. And so also, what you would do in order to get the calories is you would multiply the calorie numbers by however many you have as well. So if you have 2 apples, you would take 60 calories and you'd multiply by 2 and get 120 calories. Okay, so our milks will have carbohydrates in there. They won't maybe have as much as a starch or a bread would, but they do have carbohydrates. And by the way, I want to correct myself. These vegetables, these are the non-starchy vegetables that would have 5 grams of carbohydrates. I think I said starchy, so I want to correct myself. Okay, so the milk has 12 carbohydrates per serving, and just a serving size of milk would be a cup. That's not too difficult to remember. So half a cup, you would take 12 and you would divide it by 2, which would be 6. And then you would do the same with the calories. You would either multiply up or down. So yeah, and then our fats over here, that'd be like a teaspoon of butter. That's like oils, just pure fats. Those don't have carbohydrates. So we wouldn't need to necessarily count those if we're trying to count in our meals. But the calories nevertheless are here, and they're very good to count. Like if you want to count the calories, you could do the same method. So yeah, this is our carb counting / diabetic exchange system. Jacob, do you understand it?
I think I'm a professional now.
He's a professional. All right, Dr. Dre, I'll see you in class.